What's up, guys? Josh Lau here with TheCardGuyz, and with me today is the one, the only King Shing Tsang. Today we're going to be talking about new Alluring Desire, and I can't think of a better player and a better man to chit chat about new than Shing Tsang. Shing, for those of you who've been living under a rock and don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi guys. I'm Shing from Team Boot Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
which is a team that based in Hong Kong. Yeah, and yeah, that's it. I don't know what to
he,
say.
he's a
Yeah.
he's a very humble man. I if he won't list his accolades, I'll list some of them. So, you know, Barcelona runners up. He's the 2024 Hong Kong national champion on new. Top 8 recently at the Pro Tour Amsterdam on new, and you know, a very, very solid player that's been playing for a very, very long time. Uh, Shing, it's been over 3 years since I left Hong Kong, and I remember still 3.5 years. We had our very first match, and I remember you were playing Viserai, and I was astounded when you said I only played 3-4 games. I'm like, wow, this guy has some natural talent. And then I come to find out, hey, you play a lot of card games, and
Yeah.
over the last 3-4 years, you've really proven yourself on the international stage. So yeah, really, really happy to be having you on the series. So we'll post his you're on Twitter, right? So we'll have your Twitter and all
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and Team Blue Pitch also has a YouTube channel as well. They make some content there. So we'll also include that in the description. Also, for Part the Mist Veil, like our tradition, we plan on having a show match with Team Blue Pitch. However, Shing has scarred me and scared me. He's made too many rune chants, and I am just gonna be doing production probably. I'll let my new teammates, play in that show match. So that should be good. That'll be coming up, I believe, 1 week after the world premiere. So
Yep.
yeah. Okay,
Looking
so
forward to that also.
yeah, that'll be great. We always do that.
Yeah.
It's good fun. I think we've lost like the last 3 times. We gotta do better this time.
It's fine. It's fine.
But
You'll get
yeah,
used to that.
we'll do our best. Okay, all right. So today we have this lovely lady here, new Alluring Desire, one of the new heroes from Part the Mistveil, and let's just dive into this. So this deck list that we have here, I believe, is the one that you used in the
Mm.
Calling Manila, very
Yeah.
similar to what you used at Hong Kong Nats and the Pro Tour.
Yeah. It's just a little like 3 to 4 cast changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just take out Oasis because I lose to Kano anyway. So
Hey, yeah, if you can't beat Kano, you might as well save the sideboard slots. Okay, so there are several styles of new decks, and we saw that Shoma had a little bit more of a defensive style new. We've seen contract style news, but you kind of said that this is a more proactive new list. Could you explain a little bit about the differences between the deck lists and styles, and why did you pick this style for new?
yeah. Um. So before I confirm my list for the Concon National, I actually look at a lot of lists
Mm-hmm.
because it's like during the second week of the national season, there are a lot of new winning the event.
Okay.
So I got actually, and we are at the last week of the
Yep.
season.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I get a chance to look at a lot of different kind of newness, um, which also include something like the Japanese national champion style, as which built by Saver.
Mhm.
He lists more like fatigue playing all the defense version and
Mhm.
Sigil also. And I also saw Yuha list. Um, I actually take quite a lot of learning from feeling different lists, especially from the list that from by Yuha.
Mhm.
So um the list that I play in here is like more proactive because I like to interrupt my opponent
Mhm.
more active rather than just blocking, because I feel like I have less agency if I just block, just try to block and wait till they have a turn off,
Mhm.
or I don't like that when I get them off a turn. Then when I draw 4 card, I draw a bunch of defense version, which can help me to keep the
Yep.
tempo.
Okay.
So I rather run small cards that can help me proactively interrupt my opponent rather
Mhm.
than more defensive card. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, a lot of people have related new a little bit to another hero that I know you like a lot, Icelander. Does that
Hmm.
does this hero kind of remind you a little bit about Icelander?
In some extents, I think. I think new is more destructive than Icelander,
Hmm.
but Icelander has a higher raw value
Hmm.
from the Boatlander build.
Yep.
Um, I feel like new are actually quite hard to reach the value that the Bootlander can bring.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I think new is more destructive
Hmm.
to your opponent,
Hmm.
so that's the trade-off.
Yep.
Um, it's kind of similar, but I don't think they are much the same. Yeah.
Ah. Okay. Sure. Um. So I like to ask the guests on these A to Z episodes, why would you, why did you pick new instead of Zen, Enigma, KO, Kano? Is it you enjoyed the playstyle of the deck, or do you think it's very good in this particular meta, or do you think it just gives? I know you mentioned agency. I know that having a lot of agency is good when you're a good player because you can guarantee victories against weaker players, and so why what drew you to, what allured you to new?
Um, so I actually first playing this deck after I actually playing Usuri rather
Ah.
than new when this
Hmm.
set come out, because I find that the weakest link is very strong into the meta with Sen and also KO existing. Um, but I find that Usuri is actually kind of hard into Sen, especially before BNR.
Hmm.
So I try to find another way to build a deck that can win both Sen and KO,
Hmm.
which I come up the new deck later on.
Okay.
And yeah, why I pick new is also like because I just hate the Sand Mirror quite a lot. Yeah, but every time I play Sand Mirror, I feel
Yeah.
like who transcend first or
Hmm.
who drew the Out of Royce first, they can just block their equipment and
Yeah.
win.
Did the
Um,
ancestral harmony hit, or did it not?
yeah,
Yeah. Fair. Fair.
yeah,
Fair.
yeah. If I like the mirror, I will just play Sand because I got one of the most
Hmm.
strongest ninja player beside me so,
Yeah.
in the team. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I can just pick Sand and get a lot of free tips.
Hmm.
But after I try the Sand mirror and maybe Sand into new, I just think that is not
Hmm.
appealing to me to play
Fair
a
enough.
Sand mirror.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just
Yeah.
rather pick new. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to pick a deck to beat
Hmm.
Sen anyway. So
Fair enough. Fair
other
enough.
deck can beat Sen
Hmm. Okay.
as new can do so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've seen by now that New is one of the best choices against Zen.
Yeah.
Also in draft as well, New is considered quite strong against Zen as well. Okay, so we have the deck list pulled up. Let's kind of run through some of the cards. I think it would be. I think we should probably start with the equipment, and then we'll
Mm,
go through the main deck, and then we'll talk about the sideboard. Okay, so in terms of equipment, uh, lots of MST cards, as you can see.
mm,
I guess let's start with the. I guess we could just start. I mean, they all are need to be talked about. They're all
yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah.
unique and very impactful cards. And I guess let's start with the rousing wave. So a rousing wave gives you a fang strike, which allows you to bump any attack action by one. So this includes, command and conquer. It also pushes, you know,
Yeah.
things from 4 to 5. Uh, and as you know, Shing, I'm a warrior player, and I always say one is all you need.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is even more annoying than warrior though, because this stays on the battlefield,
Mm,
and so I presume you want to hold this for as long as possible. But is there any other specific situations that you might burn that a little bit earlier? And just how do
yeah.
you use this card in general?
Yeah, I feel like Arrowsing Wave is very good equipment actually, although it's just a common
Hmm.
because it's like um you can just block it early and then you can just threat your opponent with your extra one attack
Hmm.
whenever you got one floating.
Yep.
As you yeah, like you said, you can just pump up the CNC or Wicked Sling or
Hmm.
even like surgical extraction by one, so they can just block 4 or block 6. Um, but usually I just want to keep this until I play um my first or second Bonds of Agony because it's worked really well with the Bonds of Agony and it says it need to play 3 attack versions, so
Hmm.
it's just a one cost, one cost, two attack version, then you also get a +1.
Hmm.
So if I still got lots of Bonds of Agony in my deck, I will consider keeping it rather
Right.
than just using it
Hmm.
in a random turn. But if I feel like the situation is much needed, for example, like Sen just blocking 6 from the equipment without blocking a card, then I may consider to
Hmm.
break the arms
Yep.
to get rid of their arsenal or get rid of their chi if
Hmm.
you are attacking with the weaker ceiling.
Hmm.
Yeah, but in general, if you didn't use a lot of your Bronze of Agony, I will
Hmm.
just keep it for the card.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in general, you would combine like the arousing wave, the fang strike, maybe like just a nick, and that'll be three
Yeah.
attack reactions for Bonds of Agony. So that's a very strong
Yeah.
play. Um, I want to talk a little bit about mind games because so you said that you normally block with this early. Um,
Mm-mm.
is there situations where you block with this like faking that you're going to use it the next turn? So like the classic example for warrior is, oh, he blocked with bolters, that means he's got to use it. Same thing.
Uh-huh.
So every single time I'm thinking like every single time the assassin blocks with a rousing wave, I'm like, uh-oh. He's gonna use it next turn. But I guess
Mm.
maybe assassin's a little bit more tricky there. Do you ever block with it not intending to use it the next turn?
Um, it quite depends on the situation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but if they got a breakpoint
Right.
attack with hit effect, you have to block it, right?
Mhm.
But um, by blocking earlier on in the game, because almost half of your deck has a decent hit effect, so your opponent always have to aware that you blocked with the arm already, so you may break it
Mhm.
to um get the breakpoint
Okay.
without losing their one block value.
Mhm.
So if you're adding the things that they have to think about,
Yeah,
the
there's
chance that they get a misplay is higher. So
yes,
yeah,
that
they may just commit more block, or
yeah.
they may just block six, or forgetting about the hours
Mhm.
wave. Both
Yeah.
situation
Yep.
happens quite a lot. So
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like I get quite a lot of invisible value from blocking
Yes.
the hours wave
Mhm.
earlier. So every hit effect is basically +1, or you can
Right.
look at your opponent face and see,
Yeah.
and it can tell the heat whether the heat effect is
Mhm.
good or not. So
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of breaking scales, pushing
yeah,
over a whelming gust wave or something like that. Just it's always on the board and you just please
mhm,
just use it. Can we please just use it now so I don't have to deal with it later.
yeah.
Okay, I guess like a follow-up question is like let's say your opponent throws a snatch at you. Uh
Mm.
is the arousing wave the priority for blocking or is the undertow stilettos the priority for blocking?
Yeah, I think Arrow Wave is always the first equipment you want to block, because utilizing the +1 is more easily than utilizing the go
The
game.
Gogan. Okay.
Yeah, the go again one you have to keep quite a lot of card unless you got a card like Codex.
Hmm.
But with our wave, you can just pitch a blue attack with the Wicked Sling or Sensi or Surgical Extraction. So your opponent have to aware of that.
Hmm.
Uh, by but you only just need two cards, right? But
Right.
if you attack with two cards, CNC, um, there's no way that you get the next attack. So yeah,
Hmm.
I think Irosin Wave is always the
Priority for
equipment you want
blocking.
to block first. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, we talked about undertow
Mm,
stilettos and we mentioned it. So let's just talk about this now. So this was the one that for as an attack reaction for 1 cost, you can destroy it, make a slither, which will give any attack action card go again.
mm,
Uh, so primarily, what are we trying to use this on? Are we trying to combine this with like E strike on a draw? Are we trying to add a mode to levels of enlightenment? Are we trying to throw like bonds into persuasive
mm.
prognosis? Or like how are we trying to utilize this piece of equipment?
Um, I feel like in most case,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like a card that equipment that pair with Codas,
Okay.
or also Bonds of Agony,
Mm-hmm.
because in a game that you need to play two Bonds of Agony that activate their effects,
Mm-hmm.
the equipment is the easiest way to do. So you most likely you are going to keep the equipment for that card.
Okay.
But also in a turn that you feel like the destruction is not enough, that you
Mm-hmm.
may have to play another attack like Luminous or playing Codex, then you need to break this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it can just be a equipment that punishing your opponent for overblocking some of your attacks. So,
Mm-hmm. Right.
yeah.
Very versatile.
Mm,
Okay. Let's just talk about the other equipment that we'll talk about the weapons. So we have Fendel Spring Tunic, the
mm,
OG from WTR. So just quickly looking at things like this pays for a hiss, this pays for looking for scrap, this pays for a rousing wave, stilettos, uh, pays for levels of enlightenment, and it can help pay for these 2 cost things like surgical and CNC if you
mm,
need them to. Death touch also in the sideboard I think is going to be
yeah.
Codex into Death touch, one of the strongest plays.
Mm.
Also you have gravekeeping in the sideboard. So uh how does this deck like to utilize Fennel Spring Tunic in general?
Um, um, I feel like the tunic in this deck is quite different from tunic in other decks. So in other decks, that every time you got the tunic
You try to
counters
use it.
up, yeah, you try to use it because you want to utilize
Mm-hmm.
most of it. But in this deck, I feel like the tunic counter is actually very important, because um uh you when you draw a Codex and a brew, you can always swing a digger, then play the Codex searching for 2 cost attack, which is
Ah.
much stronger than the Nifno Winners.
Mm-hmm.
And also the Tunic account.
Surgical.
also give threats to your opponent by keeping a Tunic card with your Arousing Wave, or even just an Arsenal card,
Mhm.
which can be any attack versions like his Venomous Bites or Siren Core. So
Mhm.
sometimes just keep the Tunic counter till you really use it.
Yeah.
You really need to use it. It's quite important in this
Mhm.
deck. Yeah.
So you don't. It's not like, oh, we extract the value, kind of like how Briar used to. It's like, okay, 0, 0, 0 Tunic Rosetta Thorn. I got 4 value. This is like getting indirect value, because it's like, okay, now
Mm.
you have to play around things that I may or may not have. It also sets
Mm.
up those 2 cost cards, like you said. Like Dagger
Mm.
into a CNC is a ton of tempo against a lot of decks in the format.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like because your Tunic card up, then you still got a card left. It's completely different that you got a card left, but you don't got a
yeah,
Tunic counter.
yeah,
So
but
the possibility of
mhm,
you get having any activation is actually much
yeah,
slower if you don't have a Tunic
mhm,
counter. And also, um, um, in most of the turn, if you want to use Tunic,
mhm,
it's like swing one more dagger, which is not that effective.
mhm,
So I would rather just keep it till a turn that is really relevant. Yeah.
mhm. Yep, very very solid card.
Mm.
Okay, the final card, and the legendary 4 new Mask of Recurring Nightmares. Oh boy. This is the mind game card, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
is this it's like, okay, the new has cards in hand. Are they are they transcending and then playing Mask? Are they, going wide? Are they just pumping it with like Hiss and just a Nick? Or, there's just, this creates the all the mind games and
Mm.
creates inevitability. Uh, how do you like to use this? I guess it depends on the matchup, like heavily. But
Mm.
yeah, how do you like
I
to use
actually,
the mask?
yeah, I actually play almost playing with mass in almost all of matchup because I feel like this mass alone adding really a lots of threat to
Mm-hmm,
your opponent. I saw some of the list runs something like traverse because they want to get the chi once they're get in getting a big banishing with their opponent, so they can utilize their blue cards in their banishing whenever they can. But the thing is, I feel like mass is like the second hero ability
yeah.
of this hero. Yeah, it's most likely the main way that you
Mm-hmm,
utilize all your chi in your deck. And yeah, like you said, I feel like this card alone give a lot of threat to your opponent.
mm-hmm,
Especially whenever you play a blue card, your opponent have to guess like whether the cards they left in hand is a activation or just a chi
mm-hmm,
or even Siren Core. So it's adding a lot of choice
mm-hmm.
to them, and when they get more choice, they got more chance to misplay.
Yep.
So
And,
yeah, I really love this
mm-hmm,
mask. I feel like this mask is one of
yeah.
the best card in
Mm-hmm,
this deck and make this deck better than
mm-hmm,
usually in a way. Yeah.
yep. You've mentioned several times now that new creates opportunities for your opponent to make a mistake, and I want to take a small, detour.
Yeah.
I
Warrior.
want to I want to tell a story, because I think this is very illustrative. So, for those of you who know a little bit about my background, you know that I used to play StarCraft 2
Oh,
competitively. Have you played any StarCraft, Shing, by any chance?
no,
It's an
no.
RTS game. Okay, well, basically in that game, you have to manage your army and your base and your resources and all that, right? And so
Mm,
there were, different ranks on the ladder. You have bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, masters, and grandmasters, right? And if we talk about the base management aspect of that game, Diamond players and grandmasters, if you left them alone and you didn't interrupt them, the diamond player and the grandmaster player could manage their base at the same level, right?
Mm.
If you don't attack them, you don't harass them, you don't mess with them, you just like, okay, just make workers and build units. A diamond
Mm.
player and a grandmaster can do it the same way. But as soon as you got in the diamond player's face, you built some units and you harass them, you attack them over here, you attack them over there, you put pressure on them, then they start forgetting to build workers. They forget
Yeah.
to build units. They forget to build supply depots, which you need to increase your army size. And that was the real difference between the grandmaster and the diamond, is like the grandmaster could handle all of these tasks at the same time and be fine. But the diamond player would fall apart. And so in Fab, it's very similar. It's like, okay, if I don't do anything to you, most good players can look at their hand and be like, okay, this is the best way to play the hand. Most players can do that. But as soon as you start incorporating things like Mask of Recurring Nightmares, Siren's Call, odd hit effects, and stuff like that, then it's like, oh no,
What is coming?
what is coming, and how do I deal with that? And that bar is so much higher, and that's why these proactive decks like New just destroy weaker players, because if you make one mistake, New can often just take over the game. And
Yeah.
and that's partly why, like, oh, you might, the people at home might be wondering, is like, Josh, for the AtoZ series, didn't you just say to your team, okay, I'm gonna do the 4 warriors, you guys do the rest of the heroes? I'm not doing you guys do the other heroes. I did not say that. Like, I picked Dorinthia because I like Dorinthia. I picked Riptide because I thought it was interesting, and I picked New partly because I could talk to Yushing, but partly because I think New is like the mean Dorinthia. It's
Yeah.
like, I have all the mind games of Dorinthia, but there's much higher punishment if you mess up.
Yeah.
And it's very, very proactive. That's really why I wanted to talk to you. And this card, Mask of Recurring Nightmares, is really, like Shing said, the glue that holds the deck together. Okay, a little bit of a tangent. Sorry about that, but I love me some StarCraft. So
I played some. I played some Age of Empire before,
Mhm.
so I can relate that.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're in the heat of battle, sometimes you forget to make units, right? You forget to make
Yeah.
your villagers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the weapons for New. And we have a Beckoning Mistblade, and we have a Spider's Bite. We also have a Scale Peeler in the side. So let's run through all 3 of them. So Beckoning Mistblade costs 2 on hit. Your next blue gets +1 and go again. This one also very related to the mind games, because it's like, okay, if you Beckoning Mistblade into levels, I just gave you a mode for free. That's not good. It could also, bring a lot of these blues up a little bit more. A
Mm.
little bit more annoying to defend. Surgical will go to 5. Some of
Right.
these
Yeah.
will go to 1 or go to 2. Um,
Mm.
so how other than the levels of enlightenment interaction, like, how is this just a resource sink in general, or like how do
I
you like to use this weapon?
I feel like this is one of the most important.
Mm-hmm.
No. I, we only got 3 weapons, right? But I think it's more important than the other 2 triggers,
Mm.
because um giving an extra action point to new
Mm-hmm.
offense mean that they can
Use the
play
hero ability.
follow,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty hero ability for another big blue attack from your banner zone
Mm-hmm.
if you are playing against stuff like Victor and KO.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important in that game plan. And also when you're playing uh stuff like um playing against stuff like Sen, um on hit on Beckoning Mistblade is actually quite important also, because you can um follow
Mhm.
their brew attacks up with something like maybe CNC,
Mhm.
um, in general attack,
Mhm.
disruption attack, and also Codex.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the plus one is also important. Um, yeah, like you said, you gain an extra mole for the levels of alignment.
Mhm.
And as I said before, this deck in general is so low in value. So
Mhm.
sometimes you have to rely on those on hit
Yeah.
to get value from the levels of alignment. Because even
6
though you
draw
can
card
disrupt,
with
yeah,
Brogan. That's value.
even though, yeah,
Mhm.
even though you disrupt your opponent every turn, you still have to find way to
Mhm.
kill your opponent.
Yep.
Because my list is not a fatigue list, so I
Mhm.
can bring them back out.
Yep.
So I still need to find my value
Mhm.
from in different way. Misspray is one of them.
Mhm.
So if I pair misspray with levels of alignment is good value.
Mhm.
If I pair this with something like um Boss of Agony
Yep.
or Surgical Extraction, um they are much harder to consider whether how they should block and plan for the next turn because I still got an action point. There are something else coming maybe, so they have
Mhm.
to think a lot about that.
Mhm.
So back to the point that you are keep adding the choice to their brain,
Mental
and
fatigue.
yeah, they
You're not
can
you're
if
not
they
fatiguing their
can handle
deck. You're
it,
fatiguing their brain.
yeah. Every time you
Yeah.
attack with because it's like it's such a low value prey. If you just wing the digger, it's
Mhm.
like a two cost for one attack again.
Mhm.
You often make them think, oh, there's something
There
else
has to
coming.
be something. Yeah, it
Yeah,
makes no
and
sense to just attack with it, right? And then do
yeah,
nothing with it.
and you may get armor from that, which
Mhm.
is very good for your later hit effect attack to go through.
Yep.
And yeah, so I feel like it's also adding a lot of
Yeah.
component of my gaming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I feel like this
Very solid.
and this sticker is also very good in late game because
Hmm.
in the late game you always got the blue cards
Hmm.
in your deck or in their venation. So uh once you got this hit you can have a big turn come
Sure.
from nowhere. So yeah.
Okay. Uh, Spider's Bite. This is used against most heroes in the game, I guess, because most heroes are attack based
Yeah.
decks. So how do you use the Spider's Bite and the Scale Peeler? I guess we can kind of lump them together.
Yeah. I think comparing this two is um if you try to play against more high fast paced game that your opponent will just use armor to block your on hit effect and try to gain a big turn, then you need the pillar because pillar can um lower their armor block, so they have to give the cross in hand anyway. So it's kind of lowering the pace of the game
Hmm.
to the point that you can disrupt that enough to gain your value back. Um, for Spider's Bites, it's more like when you play against a longer matchup, which they play a lot of attack variations, or decks that they try to block with two cards, play two cards, then you need Spider's Bite because um, you often can get good value if your attack is not healing. If your opponent game plan is just play two block two, some of your attack will be very weak.
Hmm.
Like CNC, it's just a two card six if they block that out. But with Spider Bite, they have to block at least a card more, or they
Hmm.
have to give up their arsenal. So um you can gain value from at that way
Hmm.
if the game is longer. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, there's one more dagger that often sees play in Azuri. Thank God you guys don't play
Oh,
this. Nerve
do
Scalpel.
we?
Have you
Yeah.
considered Nerve Scalpel at all, or is that just sideboard slot issue?
Um, I feel like that card is actually not that useful in
Hmm.
this matter because um players are playing playing less and less defense
D-React.
version in their
Yep.
deck. Yeah, because most of the deck are more aggressive like Zen.
Hmm.
And also um I feel like the target of the digger is too minor
Hmm.
and it doesn't help a lot in
Yeah.
win rate wise.
Yep.
Nu is a Nu I think it's also the main difference between Nu and Usuri is that in Usuri, because defense reaction punish Usuri deck so hard that you
Hmm.
have to play a card to lower the value from
Hmm.
they playing defense mission.
Yep.
But in New, you get several way
Hmm.
to punish your opponent, even though they have a defense
Yep.
mission. So I don't think that
Hmm.
is necessary for
Okay.
me to play that card to
Hmm.
in order to win. Yeah.
Hmm. Also, flick knives is very, very important. The interaction with flick knives and nerve
Yeah.
scalpel is very, very important.
Yeah, I didn't play Fake
Yeah.
Knight, so I didn't
Yeah,
play that.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
might
yeah.
just be the main reason is no flick
Yeah, yeah,
knives,
yeah.
no nerve scalpel. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about all the equipment. We've also mentioned, some of the sideboard equipment. So you have AB2 uh to respect
I,
Kano a little bit, I guess.
I still don't wanna just get a free
AB1.
game loose. Yeah.
Yeah, if you
Everyone is
pair into
just like
Kano, you pair into Kano and you just say, "All right."
I would
I,
just try AB2 and yeah, try my
mhm,
best.
yep.
The win
So
rate is not good, but yeah, it's much better than AB1's.
mhm. So against rune blades, I know there were literally 0 rune blades registered for Pro Tour Amsterdam. But let's say hypothetically you're playing against a rune blade. Are you bringing in the arcane lantern? I presume, since the
Yeah,
headpiece
lantern.
is super
Yeah,
important. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Just lantern.
Yep. Okay. And then finally we have a little bit of enigma respect, and you know this is an OG.
Yeah,
We Warriors, remember we played this against Oldham.
yeah, yeah. This
But
is so
now people
important
are
in game.
using this against Enigma. Does this significantly help against Enigma, or is this just just creates a little bit of mental stress? It's just helps against bad Enigmas. Have you found this
Mm,
to be a useful card?
I feel like it is significantly improving the win rate on
Oh,
this matchup.
okay.
Because I test quite a lot with
Hmm.
Nova, which is
Yep.
an Enigma player,
Hmm.
and he told me that after I play friend base every game, every
Becomes
game that he
very
play
annoying.
against me, it's like hell. It's like,
Yeah.
no, he's going to activate friend base. What should I do?
Yep.
Yeah,
There
so
you go.
it's often happening. Yeah, so I feel like
Hmm.
the friend base is much more important, especially in a assassin that you normally don't get a lot of way to play against Enigma. So
Yeah.
yeah, this
You just.
is this is the one that you can
Hmm. Yep.
um yeah go through the spectral shield and make your own attack hits, or you can get another important aura from them.
Yeah. Or this might force them to trigger a
Draw
ward
another
on
card.
something that they
Yeah,
don't want to. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so lots of indirect value there. Okay, so we've talked
Yeah.
about all of the equipment. So let's talk about the main deck. How should we approach the main deck? Should we look at the attack action cards first? Should we look at the attack
Mm,
reaction cards first? Should we look at the disruption first or the transcend cards? How do you think it's best to break down the main deck?
uh, yeah, I feel like we can talk about the attack reaction first.
Ah, okay.
But I feel like
My favorite.
in general, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just playing his just a neck and one venomous bites and Siren
Hmm.
core. Um, I um
Okay. So.
people usually ask me why I just play one venomous bite
Mhm.
because um I feel like in this deck, if you there's often that you destruct so much that you will get a 4-card hand back, then you have the whole turn. But whenever you drew something like sing below, his, then you give a turn back to your opponent.
Yeah,
And
I think this happened in one of your Hong Kong Nationals games or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I decided to cut. Actually, I feel like I think I paid one. I only played one Venomous Bite also back then, but that
Mhm,
still happened.
mhm.
So taking one out is like decreasing the chance that I ran into those turns because I just want to keep disrupting my opponent. So
Okay.
yeah, I can
So
keep the tempo
s-
here.
okay, so you want some attack reactions, but you don't
Like
need them because you have it in your equipment. You have, annoying on hit effects like the spider's bite poison that makes it harder to block anyways. Um, but just enough to keep them on their toes, right? So
yeah,
you
and
have you have 3 copies of hiss, 1 copy of venomous bite. That's 4+3s. I guess technically this is
mm,
+4. Um,
mm,
but the other 2 attack reactions, just a nick and siren's call, are actually pretty unique. Um,
mm,
I mean, just a nick. How you know this card is ridiculous? It's a majestic attack
yes,
reaction. So generally those are ridiculous. So for warrior we have glint and blade flurry,
mm,
which are really
mm,
really good.
mm,
Assassin has just a nick. So uh I I mean the obvious combination is with bonds of agony, but I guess this combines well with a lot of different things. um
yeah.
so yeah. Mhm.
I feel like this card is so broken because there is just no way for people to play around just a nick
It goes
without
from
giving
1
up.
to 9, right? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
yeah.
without giving up anything. So
Mhm.
it's like um if you got a Tunic contest up, you got a bonds or just and just a nick. Um if your opponent just overblock, you can just arsenal your just a
Yeah.
nick. If they don't overblock or they just block 6, then you can just a nick. To nick break one of your equipment, then the attacks still go through.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I feel like most of the time you can play around just a nick because every time you play around just a nick, you lose a lot of value.
Yep.
But if you don't play around just a nick, the attacks still go
Yeah.
through, then
Yeah.
they got their hit effect
Yeah.
anyway. So yeah, that's how I feel this card.
Yeah.
I just love this. Yeah.
Yeah. In I, the main thing is that this plus the equipment is really the key because activating 3 attack
Yeah.
reactions is not easy if you don't have your equipment, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it just a 2-card combo with Tunic.
yep.
So it's your opponent can play around those. So
Right.
it's so
Yep.
good.
Yeah. The only way to prevent that line is to prevent the new from having those cards line up,
Oh,
which means
oh
but it's hard to do that. Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Or I saw some player will run West on. That may be one of
Oh,
their good counter to
okay.
just a nick also. So yeah.
Wax on, is that the? I know there's wax off and wax on. What is
I
wax on again?
it is that
Ninja D
West off?
react, right?
Maybe I saw yeah, the +2 one. I'm not putting so
Yeah.
it's one
All
of
good.
them.
Okay, so there might be some defense reactions that can deal with it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. The other attack reaction we have is Siren's Call. Now you basically run this in every matchup other than Bolton, right? And Riptide, I guess,
Mm,
is also
yep,
Azalea.
yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
this
Uh,
card is so broken.
so a lot of decks rely on, oh, because of the way that Flesh and Blood turn cycles work. It's like, okay, he attacked me with this card. Let me look at my hand and plan out my turn. Okay, I've planned out my turn. I need these cards, so I will block with these cards. And then Siren's Call's like, hey, you know that turn you had planned out? It'd be such a shame if you didn't have this blue. And guess what? I get to draw a card that I could arsenal or transcend off of, or put into, or I could follow it up. So just an absolutely nuts card. This is like the card that people keep track of. They'll like look through your graveyard and
Mm,
like, all right, how many of these have I seen? Okay, there's 2 here. I remember you pitched one. Okay, thank God I don't have to play around this. And
yeah,
this kind of comes back to the whole, idea of Tunic. It's like, okay, if he has Tunic up, okay, the possibilities are just so much higher, and this is,
yeah,
is there anything specific you want to talk about this card, or is it just like it's broken, just like just Tunic?
yeah. Um I feel like this card is the other things that I feel like
Mm-hmm.
new is better than Usuri in
Yeah.
a lot of way
Mm-hmm.
because um as I said that when you play against Usuri, you either just no block or block six, or you just have a defense reaction, then you
Mm-hmm.
can play around almost all the things they can do. But when you are playing against a new, there are so many things other than that you have to think about. Maybe like I play Bruka this turn, so maybe I can transcend and activate my happies, or I just got a Siren score that can take a card from you. If you overblock, um, if you block the whole thing, yeah, I
Yeah.
still get ways to play
Mm-hmm.
around your defense reactions
Mm-hmm.
or your respect of blocking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I feel like this is the main thing that make new unique from other deck
Yeah. It's also
and
majestic.
also Max. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just paint a scenario for the people at home, okay? So Shing puts Bonds of Agony on the combat chain and he has Tunic. Okay. Let's play just Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, okay? A, is it Tunic Siren's Call? B, is it just a Nick into a rousing wave? Is it just a Nick into Siren's Call into, I don't know. Maybe he had another card. I don't know. There's just so many possibilities. Is it none of those and it's just a transcend into a mask? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
is it
It's
is
like
it undertow into Codex into leave no witnesses? Like it's
mm,
just there's just too many possibilities. It's like the funny thing is when people play Bonds of Agony, it's like okay, 80% of the time they're trying to get this ability,
yeah,
but 20% of the time they're just gonna
bluffing.
follow up with like okay, Arsenal pass, and you're like
Yeah.
oh I blocked 6, dang it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't need a lot of attack reactions, but just enough attack reactions just to make things nightmarish for
Mm.
their opponent. Okay, let's so we've talked about the attack reactions. I don't think there's any attack reactions in the sideboard.
I
Let
want to
Mhm.
yeah, I want to talk something more
Sure.
about after. Yeah. Um so because of this kind of attack missions,
Hmm.
um after although my teammate like playing tons of games with me
Yep.
because they need to test against new, right?
Hmm.
They still hard it is still so hard for them to find a right answer
Yep.
to how to block new.
Hmm.
It's like even though you are at the highest level of play, you don't make any mistake. It is most likely come time to something like a rock paper scissors. You have to
Hmm.
guess anyway. So that's what makes me think new is so different from other decks, and it can be so punishing if you don't know how to deal with it. But
Hmm.
even you know how to deal with it, it's still like a rock paper scissors. You have to guess. You have to gamble anyway.
Yep.
So yeah, I feel like the attack version really helps me to achieve that.
Yep. I agree. Okay. What should we talk about next? Should we talk about the disruptive effects since we talked about
Yeah,
the on the these? Okay.
yeah,
I guess the the classic of classics. Command and
CNC.
Conquer. So we talked a little bit about how, there's Codex lines into CNC. We've seen dagger lines into Tunic CNC. We've seen, giving things go again into CNC. There's many, many ways to utilize this card. Of note, it also pairs with Fang Strike. So if you have a Fang Strike in Arsenal, or you have Fang Strike from
Arousing
Arousing
wave,
Wave,
yeah.
that can push this. It's a popper. I mean, this card is like $90 for a reason. So like,
This card is so good.
slows
I
down the
I don't
game,
remember.
which is
Yeah, I don't
important.
remember the last time I built any deck without Sith. So it's that good.
Well, if you if
It's
you
just that good.
if you play Bolton, that might happen. That's one of the reasons
Yeah,
Bolton is so cheap. That's because he doesn't actually play this card. But yeah, it's really really strong. Uh,
yeah.
is there any other specific lines you want to talk about, or is it just like
Yeah, it just pair good with
it?
Codex, and it's a
Mhm.
solid destruction
Yep.
because most of the deck like Zen, they need a little bit setup to have a big turn.
Okay.
So you either threatening them to block a lot and they have to give,
Mhm.
or they have to give up their card they set up. So
Mhm.
just a good card. You your opponent can be defense version
Mhm.
also. So it's just so
Yep.
good. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, let's talk about the one of the other greatest disruptive cards in the whole game. Leave no witnesses. Of the most important thing on this card is that, well, there's a lot of things, but it's 0 cost, which means you don't need Tunic. Uh,
Mm,
Also, it comes at a breakpoint and has an effective on hit. So this
mm,
basically denies 5 card hands from your opponent.
mm.
Now, one could say, oh, this only banishes 1 card in their arsenal, whereas CNC destroys all of them. Lexi, not a real deck anymore, so that's not relevant.
Mm.
So Leave No Witnesses is an assassin card, so it does pair with you know
Almost all the stuff
like hit
except just a nick. Yeah.
namely Hiss and Venomous Bite. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess if Tunic is up and they play Leave No Witnesses, it's like, okay, are you arsenaling that D react, or are you playing Hiss and then arsenaling the Slither? There's just so many mind games.
Mm.
Is there any other specific interactions you want to talk about with this card?
Yeah. It paired good with his another 2 cost attack called Codex because you
Mm-hmm.
can just give it go again and follow up with another um disruptive attack. One of the line I kind of always love is Nifluness his, then you take away the arsenal, then you Codex, bring back your CNC.
Mm-hmm.
They have no arsenal, so they have to discard a card to gain
Oh my
arsenal.
goodness.
Then you play another card to destroy the arsenal. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so good. And
that's
also the contract part is actually really good also
this
because
creating silver. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, silver is actually really good in this deck. Um, when you draw levels of enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
if you pitch a brew to create a silver, then you get another
An extra
brew,
mode.
or
Yeah.
yeah, you get a free extra mode.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, the silver matters
Yeah.
quite a lot, and yeah, it's just like in general very good value card. You
Mm-hmm.
can just draw all your cards, then go. That's this card. It's like a
Very
zero
very strong.
for egg,
Yep.
zero for egg without counting the hidden fat.
Yep.
So
Very strong.
yeah, very strong card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The next disruptive card. I don't think we could count Art of Desire as a disruptive card. I mean, we already mentioned bonds. I mean, we Shing already kind of summed it up nicely. That it's like there's no way to play around all the things that
Mm.
could be coming. Whether it's Siren's Call, it's just a nick plus the armor. If it's mask, like it's really really good.
And yeah, this card provide you a chance to look at the whole deck
Oh
of
yeah,
your
it's like
opponent.
okay, what
So
is it here?
if the time allowed is enough and you are allowed to do that, you actually can count what is in their arsenal, or you can actually know
Oh
what
god.
is in
Yeah.
their hand. You know what is in their hand already because you saw that from the hit
You
effect.
can actually
So you can just,
determine what is in there. Oh my goodness.
yeah,
That's pretty
because
good.
most of deck has pretty standard.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
most likely, if there are like a Art of War missing, a CNC missing, you can count that out really easily.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
and when you play against decks like Victor, you just banish random big attacks by the heat effect, then you can use it by your hero ability later. So
Mhm.
it's so good. It's overall just a very good card.
Yeah. This of note, this card also could cause them to block in a way that they don't want to block. They're like, well,
Yeah.
I drew my Blood Rush Bellow.
Oh,
Okay, if this hits, all my Blood Rush Bellows are gone. That's not good. So I'll block with my Blood Rush Bellow. So
I,
yeah.
I actually missed the point.
Mm-hmm.
It can banish two cards that the same name in your hand. So if you're KO, you got two YY, you can block this, you can banish two YY from their hand, and they can literally do nothing next turn.
Yeah.
So, and in other deck, if you draw two cards that are same name,
Yes.
you have to block one of them at least to prevent the
Yep.
worst outcome. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
so
So if
good.
you're playing a 9 of and you draw two of them and they play bonds, you don't have a turn.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that's that's hey, Shig learned something today. That's he's even more powerful now, guys. Watch out. All right, moving on to some more disruptive effects. I guess what the last, well,
yeah,
second to last one, persuasive prognosis.
yeah.
Uh, odd hit. It looks at the hand and banishes a card, very similar to surgical, except this costs 0.
Mm.
uh, Now this one is a little bit easier to play around in that it's like, okay, it's gonna either be +5 or Tunic +3, or it's gonna be Tunic +4. But that's still really annoying. It's like, I don't know if
It's
you're
also a broadcast, so you can
yeah.
transcend and
Yeah,
pay your
yeah, it's
attention.
super annoying. It's like, well, okay, it could be +3, +4, +5,
Mm.
or I get masked. Great.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
card is actually also, I keep saying that, but I feel like all the cards in new is really short.
Yeah.
This card is actually
Yeah.
really short also because the second effect actually matter a lot. So
Mhm.
this says whenever is this banish an action card, you gain 1 life, right?
Yep.
So because of the new hero ability is giving the attack action effect, so actually if they block with action cards, that's still banish and you still gain life.
Yep.
And also and also with the on hit, uh, you are most likely to banish two cards, then you can gain 2 more life. And with just a nick, because just a nick also does is give the stealth attack
Um,
on hit effect that
yep.
banish the top card, so you can gain
3
another
life.
extra life. Yeah, so it's
Yep.
so many life gain. And actually life gain in new is really, really important
Mhm.
because you especially against playing
Yep.
decks like playing
Mhm.
against decks like Zen and KO,
Mhm.
you often play from behind a lot.
Right.
Uh, by saying behind is like literally like 15 to 20 health
Mhm.
behind. So you really need those uh
You know.
half back
Yeah.
by playing this card. Yeah.
Yeah. Bonds,
Yeah.
homage, like every little bit helps them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned like every card is so good. Well, again, it's because it's a majestic card. If you haven't
Yeah.
noticed by now, guys, this deck is like one of the reasons you don't see this deck everywhere is that it's $1,200. Like, This is not a cheap deck to put together. It's like majestic. When your deck is, has a base of Command and Conquer and Codex of Frailty and Tunic, like it's going to be expensive, unfortunately. But yeah, these cards are solid. The last disruptive effect is Surgical Extraction. This plus Leave No Witnesses. They came from the Dynasty set, and I mean,
Yeah.
New
I
borrows
actually,
some tricks from Arachne, and it's pretty good. And it makes silver.
yeah.
Mhm.
I actually said before that I feel like Nifnoinus and surgical extraction is so good that it's not the same power level as other card that is in that era. The
Mhm.
only problem of this card is Assassin is not at
At that
Assassin as a
time,
whole
yeah.
is not that good as that time. So this
I mean,
card
it's still not that good right now, but
this
yeah.
card didn't get their time to
I'm
shine.
talking about
But
Arachne. Obviously, New and Azuri are
yeah,
great.
but I
Yeah.
feel like now,
Mhm.
for now, New and Usuri getting much better,
Mhm.
which makes people finally realize that this card are just broken.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, it's like on hit, taking a card from hand is like if you hit with this card, it's like a two card 7 at least, and it's also brawl free, so you can use it anyway. You can just pitch it, or you can just block for
And
later.
this is one of those cards. Like, okay, it's a blue block 3. It's gonna be in your deck for second cycle, third cycle, and it's like, okay, when we get to second, third cycle, they don't have D reacts, they don't have armor. This card just gets much better. So
Yeah, and also this card can help you transcend anyway.
mm-hmm.
So whenever you pitch a brew, play surgical, they have to run over the whole
Yep.
process again. It
Mm-hmm.
says Siren score. It says Siren score. Is it his? Is it? Is
Yep.
it? Are they going to
Yep.
just going to transcend, take a card from me, and then
Mm-hmm.
pass their turn? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like so good.
Yeah. And if we think strategically, that one of the reasons why, so we've already talked about how New is very hard. Like, is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Well, normally how you get that information is, okay, I'm attacking New. Let's see how New blocks, and then that will tell me what's in their hand. But if you're getting disrupted all the time, you're not really pressuring New. So you're not getting any information, which means she's pressuring you, which means you're not getting any information, which means she's pressuring you. And that cycle just continues and continues and continues. And, you
The game
slowly
again,
descend into madness.
the
Yeah.
game against New can often be very snowbally. You
Yes.
can just don't have a turn for the whole game and you die. So
Yeah.
it's like that.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So we've talked about the attack reactions. We talked about the disruptive effects. Let's kind of fill in the gaps now. So we have Enlightened Strike, Looking for Scrap. These kind of just smooth out your hands a bit. They, like, if you draw a sink below and you have full tempo, well, you could E-Strike, sink it to the bottom. Looking for Scrap is actually one of the strongest cards in the game if you have 1 power stuff to banish. Like, this was actually played in Bolton for a little bit because it's like, oh, that's actually pretty good. So yeah, it's very strong. 5 go again for 1 cost is basically like E-Strike, but it doesn't block for 3, and you kind of have to keep a bigger hand for it. But it's really strong. I don't think this is played in every matchup though, but it's still a really strong card. Okay, so we've talked about all those cards up there. Okay. Shing, are we playing Blitz against Kano? What is this?
So
this is, I get it now. It's for an extra mind game, right?
yeah, it's like
It's like
because Sigil is one of the easiest card that you can keep
in your
in your hand
arsenal or
without
in the hand, yeah.
punishing you,
Mm-hmm.
or in arsenal that you can bait your opponent to play something like CNC, because most of the time you arsenal the card that are very powerful like Codex, so they may give up a bit on value and try to attack with
Mhm.
CNC. Then you Sigil this time, they will say no. And also,
Yeah.
um, um, when you play new, you sometimes get the whole hand, right?
Mhm.
So it's one of the better way to use your hand if you draw Sigil, because
Mhm.
you can keep it until the end of your turn. So your opponent have to always guessing, oh, he's keeping 2 cards. What's coming? So like
Yeah.
you play, you simply attack with something,
Mhm.
then you hold 2 cards.
Yeah. And I guess,
It's
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's kind of like during fear.
yes.
The more the cards you
In
grip
their hand, the more
in your
possibilities.
hand, yeah, the more possibility
Mhm.
that will be happening, and your opponent
Mhm.
always had to guess.
Yeah. And I
So
guess the
yeah,
main
I
reason
think
you don't run 2 or 3 is because you never want to draw 2 of them at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also I don't have enough slot because it's
Mhm.
although it's good, it still doesn't block,
Right.
so it's kind of weak against heat effect.
Mhm.
Yeah, you heal free, you kind of block free,
Mhm.
but actually you don't
Yep.
because of the heat effect, right?
Yep.
So you don't want to
Mhm.
draw too much. You don't want to draw in a
Mhm.
wrong situation. You
Yep.
just want to gain some of the my game value when
Mhm.
you draw this. So
Yep.
I think it's a pretty good one of
Yep.
that you always have
Mhm.
to keep your opponent guessing
Yep. Hey,
at the
and
same time.
5% of games you're gonna start at 43, so that's pretty nice. Um, I
True.
guess the follow-up question here is, Shing, do you use the Barcelona or the Singapore Sigil of Solace?
Oh, I use the
The Merlion or
I use the Singapore one
the
actually
Singapore one?
because
Yeah,
because I got one open already, so
yeah. Good choice.
I
Good
just put
choice.
it in it then.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Moving on. Well, there's only, as you can see by this deck ratio, 22, 330, and you look, oh, it's an assassin. We know what these are, right? Like there's no question what these are. It's a playset of Codex of Frailty. Uh I mean, it's so good. I guess we've already talked about a lot of the lines. Let's talk about the Ponder token. Now,
Mm.
one of the things about the Ponder token is like, I'm looking at this list, I'm like, there's no bad cards to Arsenal. It's like,
The worst card is the run attack or the chi that
yeah.
you transcend and you randomly store your prot and you draw
Mhm.
them.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
If you
it
ponder
happened.
a
It
chi,
happened.
you can't Arsenal it. I mean, you
It
can, but you
happened.
shouldn't. But yeah, I mean, this is normally just worth a ridiculous amount of value.
Mm.
Uh, it's strong. It creates, that fifth mix up. Yeah, very strong. Okay,
Mm.
we got
I
a
feel like
couple. Yeah. Any
I'm
other
sorry.
thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Um, for this deck, different from other rangers and assassin, because this deck didn't play a lot of good red attack.
Hmm.
So sometimes you have to aware of that
Hmm.
before
Oh,
you
sorry.
have to block with some card instead of pitching those maybe. So you always guarantee when you draw Codex you have a good target
Hmm.
to put in your arsenal,
Fair.
because like in Azalea or in Usuri it's so easy to find a target, because
Hmm.
in Azalea you most of the deck have one for
0 or
five
1
arrow,
cost
that's two,
arrows. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, 0 for 4, 1 for 5. And in
Yeah.
Usuri you play much more good red attack
Mm-hmm.
like death touch and maybe shakedown pair with your
Mm-hmm.
neck piece or flick knife maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So there are lots of good targets in other decks, but in this deck actually you have to be aware of the target, because every time you drew Codex you want to use it
Mm-hmm.
instead of pitching it or
Mm-hmm.
just arsenal it and wait, because you are risking it to get
Mm-hmm.
like never winners or get CNC.
Right.
So just a little tips.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you got a good Codex target
Yep.
in early game
So
if you can. Yeah.
so what you're saying is that LSS needs to print, instead of endless arrow, there should be endless daggers, right? There needs to be a new endless daggers card so that Shing
No, new
can
new is strong enough.
or
But maybe
just
maybe not
print
good enough.
another card, civil leave no witnesses,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you might even find a good generic in Rosetta, maybe. You never know.
Maybe. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
All right.
I played Sensor before, so
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So we have some blues. Obviously we'll talk about the Transcend cards last, but we have Art of Desire Mind, Bonds of Attraction, Infect, Pick to Pieces. I mean, these are kind of the filler cards. Is there any specific reason you chose these as like to fill your blues in?
um yeah, Arts of Desire Mind is a very good card against decks that play a lot of blue.
Yeah.
So sometimes if your diggers hit and give his go again, your opponent will be very annoyed because
Yes.
if they have to block with a blue card, they give you a life and draw a card. If they no block, they may still give you a blue card from the top of their deck and you still draw a card again
Yep.
life. Yeah, so it's the
Very strong.
ceiling of this
Yeah.
the ceiling of this card is very high. So yeah, I just play this.
Yep. Bonds of
Um
Attraction just allowing you to pick certain things from their
yeah,
graveyard,
yeah, yeah.
and it also gains some life. So this is also very, very strong.
Yeah.
Um, why is there an infect here? Is this similar to Pick to Pieces? Like this is for Enigma, or
Um
is it just the most value that you can get out of one card potentially?
it's the most value cards that you can have
Mhm.
with a blue one attack, a blue one assassin attack. So you
Mhm.
can just nick this.
Yep.
It's a
Oh,
if you play just a nick
two
on
card
this,
8. Oh
it's
man,
you can nick, so it's still fine. And
and it could
when you play
banish some stuff.
yeah,
So, oh,
when you play this card, if your opponent don't have armor, um it's often uh if often present free value, and also you can transcend with it. So
mhm.
yeah, it's kind of good. Yeah.
Okay. Final card, Pick to Pieces, limited All
Uh
Star, and I guess this is mainly for
it's
Enigma
for it's for Enigma, and
and Prism.
it get the plus one. Yeah,
Mhm.
also yeah, Prism. And it's got the plus one effect, so
Mhm.
if you just select this, it's still 2 card 7, not too
Yeah,
bad.
2 card 7. Yeah,
So
not too bad. Not too bad. All right, so that's every single card except the Transcend cards. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means you're not playing the specialization, and you're not
and a
playing
drop in ocean.
Drop in the Ocean.
Yep.
I gotta okay. Let's start with the obvious question. Why are you not running the Sacred Art?
Um, I think that card is actually not that
A
good.
trap.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
because the other two, maybe it's just because the other two is too good.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
the one for Enigma
The
and the
the
one for Sun.
Lunar Shrine and the
Those are too good.
Tiger Domain are
But
pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, but
Mhm.
in this deck, you sometimes just wanna block a bit, and
Mhm.
while if you have to play this Garter art,
Mhm.
that means you have to keep quite a lot of card in order to
Yeah, it's really
yeah
really expensive, and
yeah
yeah.
in order to get the effect fully
Yeah, maybe
yeah.
it's more for
So
like an aggressive list or something like that. So,
yeah, and I also feel like the effects doesn't worth that
mhm.
much. So
Okay,
I rather
fair,
just don't put it
fair, fair,
in.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay, you included every single other Transcend card except for Drop in the Ocean. I think a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory, like homage, gaining new life. That's what you wanted to
Mhm.
do. Passover is actually pretty pretty unique in that it like synergizes very well with News Hero ability. Obviously, you're just taking the blues that you can play generally. I guess that's the. There's no other. Unless maybe you'll take a card just so they can't remember and sit back in. I don't know, but
and it's a
yeah.
counter to preserve tradition if your opponent try to
Right,
transcend.
right. So,
But yeah, the case is pretty rare. So
yes. But that interaction, just like in limited, that's also the
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
If preserved tradition tries to target something, you pass over that. When pass over will resolve first, preserved tradition will fail.
It's a
And
card for a card, so we agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so do they still get the transcend in their hand?
No, no, they didn't.
They didn't.
They didn't get a transcend. It's
Right,
it's like a frail to play the card, and it go to the graveyard directly. So they
right.
got one chi less if you banish the target.
Yeah. So if they played preserved tradition and rising sun setting moon at the same time,
They only get
they'll
one chi.
they only
Yeah.
get one. Oh, that's pretty
Mm.
good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Okay. Path well traveled. I guess this. I mean,
It's
if
one it's one
eh,
of the strongest.
yeah, if you have tempo, also if you have a very large hand, you know,
It's so good with
yeah,
Bonds of Agony
yeah,
for the same reason that we mentioned before. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
you can just bait your opponent to overblock,
yeah.
then
Bonds,
just
path,
simply give it go again and
codex, it,
do another stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
they brought 6 on your one attack, then you can do the other
yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
so
very strong. Preserve tradition. Is there a particular card like levels
your fourth codex,
or codex? Yeah, it says target action card. Yeah, fourth codex. Very very good.
it's so
Rising
good. Yeah.
sun, setting moon. I can help filter a little bit. This is probably one of the weaker ones.
Yeah, if you draw 2 chi at the same time, since this deck is not that good at using resources, you can just
Mm-hmm,
put 1 chi back to the bottom and arsenal the card that you
mm-hmm.
draw and activate your happiness. So
Sure.
yeah, I feel like sometimes you drew quite a lot of
Mm-hmm.
brew, 4 brew hands
Yep.
in this deck, so it can help you to filter, maybe get a
Mm-hmm.
Codex or get a
Sure.
red attack. Yeah.
Okay. Stir the pot. I think this comes out in certain matchups because you don't actually
Mm,
want to see a bunch of no blocks.
yeah.
um,
But sometimes stir pot is good
mhm,
because you can draw chi back to activate your hat piece, so it's more unpredictable because um whenever you have to transcend
mhm,
to activate your hat piece, you have to play a blue card. But
mhm,
sometimes if you draw back chi, then you can just attack with something like Niflo Witness or CNC, then you can
mhm.
still activate your hat piece
Yep.
without transcending or
Yep.
playing a blue card.
Yeah.
So yeah,
This card
it's
unlocks more plays with the deck. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And bring the tips to scale. It's lunging press, but it's good.
Oh,
uh,
it's actually a really good interaction. Not interaction. It's a good card into snap because it's an instant, so you can snap this +1.
mhm,
So if they just if you attack with something like surgical extraction or bronze of agony and they just block the number 1 or 4,
mhm.
then you do something, they try to snap you, then you can just grants. It's still go through and you still got your hit effect. Yeah. Because that is only attack version and the
Correct. Yeah.
action cap itself. So yeah,
Yes.
it's quite a good counter
That
for
that's
snap
a
also.
this might be the oh I guess lightning press also would work around this, but this is one of the very few reactions that aren't reactions and that plays
Yeah,
around snag. which is a very common card. I when we get to the section, talk about how to play against new, I think Snag is going to come up quite a bit because obviously Snag negates this card, which is quite good. Okay, so that's the whole main deck. Let's quickly chit chat about this sideboard, then we'll talk about matchups. So Depth Touch, we already mentioned. This is mainly used as Codex targets. This needs to get into the graveyard though, which is not the easiest thing. But I guess if you're playing a slower matchup, this is guaranteed to go in there.
Yeah, so I just play it as a one-off because I don't want to draw multiple in a hand. And also I only play this in the so-called Codex mirror, which is
Right.
Ranger and Assassin, because sometimes you need to block a lot against those deck, and they may end up with a Codex. And if you have a Tunic's counter sub, you can just choose Death Touch. It give you the most value rather than Niffle Witness, because if if you choose Niffle Witness as a target of your opposing Codex, it will only come for free and they can block it quite easily.
Right.
So Death Touch is always good because it's like a infecting shot. It's like 1 for 5.
And
you can choose Blood Rot.
And normally you will choose Blood Rot Pox as the token, or very rarely choose the others.
Yeah, maybe in Assassin Mirror, I will choose Frailty if there are no Frailty on board, because the Digger on hit effect is often quite important. So if they keep their whole hands and let your Death Touch hit, which is not that often, but yeah, that sometimes happen, then you have to choose Frailty maybe, because the only way that for Assassin to use their hand is pitch for Digger and then do something else.
Okay.
Yeah, so sometimes if you don't have a Frailty on board, then you might you might need a Frailty to negate the Digger.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then Inertia is almost never chosen, I'm guessing. Unless
It's kind of
yeah.
it's kind of because it's quite anti-synergy. If you get Inertia, then you drew into Sensi and Niflominus, they just become
Right.
0 for 4 and 2 for 6.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense. Okay, we got a copy of Gravekeeping. So you said you were playing Censor for a while, and I guess this is replaced Censor. It's got similar stats other than the block value. So what? Maybe you guys don't even remember this. This was from the most recent set, but it's it's a 1 for 5 blocks 2. It says when this attacks a hero, you may banish a card from the graveyard. And it doesn't even have to hit. It's just goodbye.
yeah.
So is this how do you like to use this card, and what matchups would this be for?
So this card and also Sigil, the concept is actually come from Yukiri. So we play a bit, we test a bit together on the new deck.
Yep.
And she told me that this card is quite good into the deck that you might need to use your hero ability, like into
Guardian.
Victor, Guardian, and also
the mirror.
sometimes
And,
Mirror, because you I think some of the new, including me, will still keep the surgical extraction in their main board, even in the mirror. So if you have a great keeping, you can just banish the surgical extraction, which is a very good card if you can play off with your durability.
Yep.
Or also sometimes you can just target something like prognosis, persuasive, or something like bonds of agony.
Okay.
Yep. You can get some good target because they are kind of aware of that, right? So it's so hard to banish
those cards. Yeah.
Those cards they won't just brought those cards
They won't
to
just
your
throw them away to
stealth
mask.
attack.
They won't block with
Yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
so
Fair enough.
it's a good way. It's a good way to get those
Mhm.
cards in their vanish zone. So in the late game, you can just utilize that.
Sure.
It's also kind of a good Codex target. So
Yep. Sure. Okay, we got 3 copies of Hurl. I haven't seen this card in a long time. I'm. Are you playing this mainly against Enigma just because it's a 0 for 3 go again? It's head jab, or is the actual ability relevant?
yeah, the ability at the ability actually
Mm-hmm.
is relevant
Okay.
when you need the big turn to
Mm-hmm.
close off the game against the matchup against a hero that you need to use your hero ability like Victor. Um, so they will brought the misspray because they knew that the misspray often
Unlocks
brings
all
so
their banished
much
zone.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can play a
Macho
you
into
can just like
macho.
yeah macho into macho, thunder
Yeah.
quake into macho, something like
Yeah.
that. So they will block your misspray either way. And
Ah.
Hurl is a good card that you can play around that because
Mm-hmm.
they don't have damage prevention. So you can just wing with your misspray, force them to
Mm-hmm.
block a card or equipment. But at that late game, they usually don't have equipments left. So you're forcing they block something to your
Mm-hmm.
misspray, which is very good. And
That's real strong.
yeah,
That's
you
real
pitch a
strong.
brew, you got one floating left, right? So you can attack with your hurl,
Mm-hmm.
paying one, throw your misspray. Then you still got the misspray hit effect to extend your chain link to use the cards in the banish zone. So in the
That's real good.
yeah, it's a in the break
Mm-hmm.
ending turn is really good.
Yep.
And the other reason is like you said, it's a 0 for 3 go again.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can just forward the girl to force their rod
Mm-hmm.
to go soft. Yeah, so it's good.
Okay. I see. Okay, strong card. Speaking of strong cards, the weakest link
Mm,
now joins 2 other cards that have 6 power 3 blocks with on hit effects, namely
mm.
being CNC, weakest link, and what was the other card? There was one more. There's another 3 block that does something. The 6 power 2 cost. I'll think of it eventually. But basically, this is more disruption, but it's disruption against the meta decks. Like a lot of the meta decks right now are running 10 no blocks. At least
Uh,
5, but probably closer to
mm,
10.
mm.
Uh is there I mean, is this used with anything in the main deck, or is it just, you know, I get
Um,
maybe you'll use it with the rousing wave, but you know, yeah.
yeah, I
How
feel
do you
like
normally use this card?
yeah, it's just a normal 2 for 6
Mm-hmm.
disruption attack. So
Mm-hmm.
um, it's good. Yeah, as you said, it's good into most of the mess that are right
Mm-hmm.
now, like KO, Prisms, and Enigma also. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I feel like you just play it like CNC, but
Sure.
sometimes yeah, you can pick this rather than CNC.
Mm-hmm.
It in when you use your Codex.
Okay.
So um,
Yeah.
it's quite hard to explain, but sometimes you just
Mm-hmm.
have the feeling that they
They
must have
have it.
a
Yeah, based
yeah,
on
they must have a
how quickly they
how they
blocked and how they did or did not
or
block. Yeah,
sometimes they just block with their
their armor.
traverse, so they
Yeah,
guarantee have the chi
or the
in
tiger.
hand, and
Yeah.
you can yeah,
Mm-hmm.
or they block with next, so they got a tiger in hand, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can attack with the wicked
Right.
sim
Right.
to utilize the value. Yep.
Okay. Yep. Okay, and then to round things off, we got 3 sync, 2 fate, 2 that's all you got. Um 7 D reacts kind of is the sweet spot. Like you're gonna consistently have them, but you're not gonna draw too many of them.
Mm.
Um is there a particular reason you chose this ratio of 7 and this like 3-2-2 convert ratio?
So in the Pro Tour list, I actually only play 3 Sync below and
Mm-hmm.
1 Faithful Sin because I have to have the spot for the Oasis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now I change the ratio a bit because I expect more Success Mirror, and I
Mm.
as um and I also feel like that's so you got is a pretty good
Yeah.
inclusion when you are playing against mirror other assassin or even Sun because you can just block their Kakara and you still draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
And in the mirror, there's often some situation that you have to block their decker like misspray because misspray is very good. So if you got this card, you can just
Mm-hmm.
block that more easily. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And the other
yeah, and the
continue.
random draw is gonna be pretty decent as well, generally.
Yeah, it's like the Codex
Like
Pandaron, except
yep,
if you draw a chi, you can also use that.
yep, exactly. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of wraps up the deck tech. So let's move on to the general strategy, and then we'll talk about some specific matchups. So we talked about how to use the equipment. We talked about, that this is fairly proactive. Um, so in terms of power cards, we have, Justinic, Bonds of Agony. Like there's actually there's too many to
Everything is
list.
power card,
There's
yeah.
too many to list. The whole deck is just super powerful.
Mm.
I guess um, let's just move on to specific matchups because I think generalizing matchups for new is not very easy because her hero ability is very unique, and then
Mm.
every matchup is going to play a little bit differently because you're a proactive disruptive deck, right? So you have to figure out like, okay, do I need to disrupt 5 card hands? Do I need to play for a shorter game, a longer game? So well, we prepared 3 matchups. We'll talk about these 3 and then like briefly talk about a couple other ones. So let's talk about Zen. So this is the boogeyman of the format. So
Mm.
putting in the scale peeler just to reduce the value if they try to block with their fridge on a CNC or something like that, weakest link. In terms of cards, looks like we brought in weakest link. We brought in some sync belows. That's all you got. So how do you normally try to approach this matchup? And yeah, do you feel like this is a favored matchup? I guess the answer is yes because that's the main reason to bring new. But how favored do you feel, and how do you approach the matchup?
Um, I feel like it's mm, on stat, I got more win rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's favorable, but the match actually goes very differently than its feel. So I win like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of game against them. I would say actually um in our internal testing, I almost win all my game
Mm-hmm.
against Putin. Maybe not all, but yeah, my win rate is like at like 70 or 70 higher than 70%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a good percent.
Yeah,
But the actual game plays out is like you're always they
like
always try to have a really huge turn that
you have to have an
push
answer
you.
every single turn.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
they put you down to something like 15 or even 10, and they are still at 20 something, and you are down something like 15 to 20 life, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
crawl back every turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that's most of the
Mhm.
most of the games goes like that.
Yep.
So there's like still like
Mhm.
there is still like something like 30% of the game.
Mhm.
You disrupt them every turn, they can play the game and the game just end. You still got 20 something
Mhm.
life or even more.
Mhm.
That still happen, but more often it's like they have a really huge turn that they can set up for something like 30 something damage,
Mhm.
20 something damage, or 30 something damage. And then after that, they try to pay more value.
Mhm.
And because your life total is so little, and yeah, basically, we have to crawl back
Mhm.
from that kind of situation a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say it's favorable, but
Mhm.
it's definitely hard one. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you can't disrupt them every single turn, they get that big turn off, and then you have to play catch up, which the deck can do, but it doesn't feel good to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
can do, but
Mhm.
every time it's hard.
Mhm.
You
Okay.
you can still win most of the game
Mhm.
from that part.
Mhm.
So my theory is like if they use all their equipment
Mhm.
and they only lead for like 15 life, then you actually have a pretty good chance to win that game
Mhm.
from there. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of cards you took out Looking for Scrap. I guess it's because we don't it blocks for two, and we're not playing that
Mm.
value game. You also took out Stir the Pot. Is the what is the reasoning behind that?
I just want one less
No
no
block.
no block because you need to block when
Okay.
you need to block their back turns,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
also sometimes the report is not good
Hmm.
because you just shuffle some random cards.
Hmm.
So it's like um by normal playing you just draw your cards by order. So if you shuffle, you may just shuffle your one or last Siren core to the bottom of the deck
Okay.
because the how do I put this? Because it's like often that the games that will go quite a few. So the game is not that short, right? So actually push that and first cycle, second cycle stuff actually matter. If you shuffle, you may just shuffle your powerful card into your bottom of the deck
Hmm.
instead of drawing those
Okay.
when you need it.
I see.
So
Hmm.
yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. So another matchup we have prepared for you guys is the KO matchup. So same equipment suite as the Zen matchup, but in this case we have a couple Fate for Seeds. We have a Grave Keeping. What is this mainly targeting in that matchup?
Smash Instinct.
Smash
The
Instinct.
it's yeah, it is the best target that you can get because the other stuff you don't have a
A,
effect on the card.
a
So
blue
the
Smash
intimate,
Instinct.
yeah, Bruce Smash
Oh.
Instinct. Yeah,
Oh
because
yeah. Huh.
they play that, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
got the intimate effect, yeah.
Yeah. Look at me. I'm the brute now. Weakest Link, obviously very good against, the plethora of no block cards. Uh, and yeah, looks, pretty standard. Also took out a Venomous Bite. I guess that's just to make a little bit of room for the Gravekeeping.
Mm,
And you don't need that many attack reactions because they don't have any D reacts generally, other than
yeah.
the Reckless Swing. But
Yeah,
but if they're playing Reckless Swing, they're not having a turn. So
yeah.
yeah. So how do you like to approach KO matchups and like in general other mid rangey uh, matchups?
Um, I think KO is one of the harder matchup for
Hmm.
new because it's not like you're unfavorable, but um because it's because of the plan that they are playing. So they often just block two cards
Hmm.
and swing big or block two cards barefing. So the value of the kill deck can be really hard. And there are sometimes that you just your destruction just doesn't mean anything because
Hmm.
they can just get discard card or banish a card and still come for 2-card 8 or 2-card 9.
Mhm.
So and new is not good in value trading,
Yeah.
I would say, because it's
Uh,
not a good value
yeah.
deck.
This
Yeah,
was
so
actually part of the reason I brought Hatchet's Dorinthia to U.S. Nationals. I was like, well, I pair into new. I'm just Hatchet's Dory is just gonna, dynamo reset all the time, outvalue them.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So
very
the
similar to KO. Yep.
yeah, basically the game plan is you have to, because KO have to play quite a lot of blue attack
Mm-hmm.
for 5 cards.
Yep.
Like the windups, like the Smash Instinct stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can still do a big value
Yep.
play
Kind of like
with your
taking the
hero
Guardians
ability.
blues. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And but you still have to present flat to them so they just don't run over you by
Right.
playing something like Barrage Battle,
Mm-hmm.
Activate Sash, Rise, stuff like that. So
Yep.
you have to present a decent amount of
Yeah.
destruction
Yep.
every turn. Um, so you basically want to trade live with them. When you both get lower, then you can just use your hero ability to
Mm-hmm.
make a big turn to gain the tempo or even kill them
Sure.
from that. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay, the last matchup we have prepared for you guys is the Enigma matchup. Now, many people consider this to be one of the hardest matchups.
Oh, that should be friend based. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oops. Okay, well, that's okay. Arousing Wave is not there. Vambrace is in.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's I mean, I'll edit that for for later. It's
Yep.
okay. Okay, so traditionally this matchup is very difficult because, well, this deck doesn't deal that much damage. So how do you deal with Enigma just putting a bunch of ward on the board and, outvaluing you with, you know, manifestations of Mira Guy and all their other high value plays?
I feel like most of the Enigma deck now is more towards the attack actions, more value one,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just try to build a board to um overwhelm their opponent, because
Mm-hmm.
the set matchup is so horrible
The
if you play
defensive
something.
Enigma. Yep.
Yeah, if you play the defensive or rod
You
Enigma,
you will
you
win
basically get
100% of your games against Dorinthia, but you will lose 100% of games against them.
yeah.
So,
So most
yeah.
of the list is on a different
Mm-hmm.
kind of build.
Okay.
So if they don't put that much ward card in their deck, that is good for us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Also, um, there are some tips or some game plan into Enigma. Is like um,
Mm-hmm.
you want to try to keep either attack reactions or the the attack that can go again in your
Mm-hmm.
arsenal, and not to use them randomly. So when they try to block with Traverse and play out their mirror guy, you have a way to deal with the mirror guy immediately after
Mm-hmm.
that turn.
Yes.
Because
Mm-hmm.
mm, the I would say the win con of Enigma is like if their mirror guy can swing for 2 turns,
2 times. Yeah.
it's more likely done. Yeah, so
Yes.
it's most
Just too
likely
much
done.
value.
Yeah, even for Sun, if their mirror
2 card
guy can
16,
swing for
one
two
card
turns,
16.
it's like
Yeah.
too much for them. So um you basically have to keep the ways to deal with
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
mirror
Makes
guy
sense.
in your arsenal and
Mm-hmm.
wait until the turn
Yep.
they do that and you can deal with it.
Yep.
And also you can just try to play more around your fan base to force them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to you have to literally save one resource every turn
Yep.
so that you can activate fan base when you need
Yeah.
to make them make their ward or block
Mm-hmm.
more awkward, so they can do
Mm-hmm.
whatever the things that they want to do and
Yep.
set up a
Mhm.
bunch. Yeah.
And this
But
card gets stronger if you can attack in a wide pattern because it's like I could Vambrace here, I could Vambrace there, and you don't know which one
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna do. Hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
Actually, I feel like this matchup is not as bad as people thought. I would say the at most it's like a 60-40
Hmm.
for
Okay.
enigma, 60 new 40. If they are on a um more meta build that include a lot of attack actions.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the warp one
Okay.
is hard, so
I see. Sure.
yeah.
Okay, so it kind of depends a little bit about how they're built. Okay. Uh,
Mm.
so there's a couple other matchups that I kind of want to briefly talk about, but I mean, Kano, you're just gonna auto lose. It's like, okay, you just go as fast
If
as
they
you can and
play
try.
if they play good and draw good, you
Yeah,
lose.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how about, and we briefly talked about Victor. You just take all their blues and
Mm.
play them, and is
Mm.
that a tricky matchup in any way, or is it fairly straightforward on how to play against Victor?
Um, I think the only way that Victor can win a new is they do a lot of CNC pummel
Hmm.
in their first like few turns, or they
And they
win all their
that's
patches
that's
in
like
the first
not
few
even
turns.
possible because Tunic is not even up till turn 3
Yeah,
and
yeah,
turn
yeah.
6. So it's
So
like if you get pummeled, CNC pummeled on turn 3 and turn 6, maybe you'll lose.
um I
Yeah.
feel I feel like you're very favorable
Hmm.
into Victor. You just need to be
Slow and
more
steady.
patient.
Hmm.
Yeah, be more patient, block more, and don't leak too much, don't
Hmm.
greed too much.
Okay.
Then the match will be pretty good for
Hmm.
you. Yeah.
Yep. So he basically is guaranteed roughly to win most of the clashes, but that's okay. You can still
I
handle it.
mm, mm,
Okay. Yeah. So even if he has an extra card here or there, you might be able to disrupt him enough that he doesn't get to play his super go wide turn with like E strike and rouse and all that. Okay.
yeah.
Is there any other matchups that you want to talk about, or can we move on to the how to beat new section? is
Yeah,
there
let's just
is there any
um
other matchups that kind of jump
I
out
don't
to you?
know.
No. Okay. I
Yeah.
guess we kind of talked about most of the important matchups. Uh, okay, let's talk. So in each of these A to Z episodes, I like to ask the guest because I don't want these episodes to just be for people that are interested in new, right? Obviously, a lot of people will
Mm,
be interested in new. They'll be interested in hearing what you have to say about new. But some we want to have a section of each video. It's just like, okay, here's what the expert said to do if you're having trouble against new. And you've played several
mm.
new mirrors. So what advice would you give to players that are saying, oh, man, new is just I just lose and lose and lose against new. How Shing, what should I be doing against new?
Yeah,
What would your advice be to them?
I think like in general there has like two type of deck that play against new. That new will have two type of gameplay, right? So the one is like the Guardian, the Brute one, that new have to win by their hero ability.
Hmm.
One is like more like Sam and maybe like stuff like Acelia that
Hmm.
is they're playing more aggressive, so new has to be play more disruptive and
Hmm.
stuff, right? So for the Guardians and the Brute part, I would say don't beware of what you are blocking. Don't just block random cards, random good blue cards into their stealth attack.
Hmm.
And try to mm, it's quite hard to say. Because I play against new as Victor also, so I can feel that.
It's hard.
That's
Yeah,
really hard. But
yeah.
try to, yeah, as I said before, try to set up some good CNC pummel.
Mhm,
Try to play all your value card,
mhm.
even
Um,
though,
mhm.
yeah, it's quite rough when you play against new. They have got all the destruction,
Mhm.
but sometimes they will just give you a breathing room. Just don't waste those turn
Yeah,
to
you
edge much
you might get
as
one
much
or
as you
two good
can.
turns. You got to make the most out of them. How about
Yeah.
the other matchups, like the ones where you're gonna get disrupted, like Zen and Azalea?
Mm. So for my Pro Tour opponent, I play against one Japanese player who are playing Zen that I feel like he's doing a good job. It's like when he see me playing Pillar, he try to he try not to play like around because most of the Zen is like most of the Zen playing against new is like block 7 break turn, right? But sometimes that just doesn't work if the new opponent play the Pillar. So when he see me playing Pillar, instead he play like more like a mid-rangey
Mhm,
and value way.
mhm.
You still need one big turn. You still need one big turn to create big enough gap for you to
Yep. But he was
play the value plan.
uh,
But
indirectly he was forcing you to use scale peeler every turn.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
he was forcing you into a play pattern. Yeah. Mhm,
yeah. And also, I would say just don't try to create a don't try to create on
mhm.
cards that you know when you play against new it's very hard to play,
Right.
especially after you blocking all your equipment.
Mhm,
So I feel like the style like Sen specifically, the style of a Sen playing against new before and after blocking equipment is very different. um Before blocking equipment you have to
mhm.
grid for a
Okay.
big turn
Mhm.
to create a big gap,
Yep. Okay.
and yeah you have
Mhm,
to, and also you have the armor to cover some of the on-hit effects, so get a
mhm.
you get a way out, even though they have the on-hit, right?
On hit
But
with breakpoint.
after,
Hmm.
yeah, but after they broke their equipment, you should play more mid-rangey, more value, and don't grid for big arts of returns or stuff like that,
Hmm.
because there are no armor that can cover the on hit. So whenever you arsenal Arts of War instead of maybe attack with a Kakara for free value, they may just attack you with a CNC or
Hmm.
Lift No Witness, which either way you don't have a big turn
Hmm.
anyway.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, that should be the things that you're aware on.
Hmm.
So don't just always keep the same mindset that, oh, Art of War is a powerful card, so I have to
Right.
always keep it in arsenal and
Hmm.
wait for a big turn.
Yep.
That's not the case. If you brought all the armor, your opponent can always destruct you. You
Hmm.
it's the chance that you're having a big Art of War turn after your armor brought is actually not that high.
Hmm.
So sometimes you may just rather pitch it for weapon swing or
Yep.
pitch it to other stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Most weapons in the game generate a lot of value, and they don't even cost you a card. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good. I would like to give like a general tip for those who are struggling with new. You need to understand new's card pool, which means if you don't
Yeah.
know the text on this card by heart and the text of this card by heart, you need to know. You need to know that persuasive prognosis is a card. You need to know that surgical extraction is a card. You need to you need to understand like Codex and to leave no witnesses is like a very common line, right? So
Yeah.
basically, if you're surprised, you should be you shouldn't be surprised by the text of the card, basically. Um, yeah. Uh, I would also like to add, now I know you don't have snag in your sideboard because, well, if the other dude takes your snag, that's really bad. But
Mm,
from like from a banish effect. But snag is one of the best cards against new as well.
yeah,
Because, well, just an it goes down to no effect basically.
yeah.
So and it also stops, Hiss and Venom's fight. But the issue is that, okay, if you save your snag and oh no, it's a Siren's call. Oh no, it's a mask. Feels a little bit bad. But basically, if you have room for snag in your sideboard and you kind of sit it into arsenal, that does help against a lot of the common play patterns of the deck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think in the card cyborg slot part,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a lot of slot that you can, or you just want to target new, you can just pretty more defense.
DVX. Yep.
Yeah, especially stuff like that's what you got,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you got is a perfect card that
Stops the
for you
dagger.
to block.
Yeah.
Yeah, stops the dagger.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we I think we discussed about how um important is the misspray on hit, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the spider spite on hit.
Yep.
So it's always good for you to have that's what you got in your
Mm-hmm.
arsenal and prepare for the
Yep.
dagger swing.
Mm-hmm.
And also cards like west or north. I don't remember
Yep.
which one is it.
Well, we'll look it
Um
up. Yeah.
yeah, it's
Uh,
I think it's west on. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
it's a 0 for 5, so um, it's good against different winners, and also the silver cost brew attack that
Mm-hmm.
can pair with Jesenic.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in general, you can just play Sing below Favor Sim because it's also good in other
Mm-hmm.
matchup, and it can cover something
Mm-hmm.
like
Yep.
his or
Mm-hmm.
Venomous Bites. So
Okay. Well, yeah, I think that's a great summary there from Shing. Okay. Well, Shing, I think we've been going almost 2 hours. We're not trying to beat Alan's record, right? We'll let Alan have that record. Uh, okay. So I guess we'll just wrap things up. Huge shout out to Shing, for taking time out of his day to chit chat with myself and you guys at home about new. Just thank you so much, Shing. It's always a great pleasure to talk with you. Also want to quickly shout out the sponsors here at TheCardGuyz, Fabric.gg, Dragon Shield, and Magnolia Games. Thank you for supporting TheCardGuyz and supporting what we do. Yeah. Well, Shing, any final shout outs to anybody
yeah,
or to the people at home?
yeah, thanks for having me. Shout out to Yuki who
Mm-hmm.
worked the list with me.
Mm-hmm.
And also shout out to every national
Yeah.
new winner that
Yeah.
give me the list
The
to
inspiration.
have an
There you
eyes
go.
on. Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, going as the third week versus the first week is a big difference.
Yeah, it's a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, going into US Nats, we're just like, okay, we know Zed and New are strong, but we didn't. Everybody's list wasn't quite finalized at that point. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you guys want to try out the list, it is in the description below. There will also be a Patreon article that will be going up where I do a little bit more write-ups on the matchups and a little bit extra sideboarding as well. So if you guys want to join the Patreon, the link for that is in the description below. This should be released the Wednesday before the world premiere. So if you guys are going to Tampa, come out and say hi to me or the guys. We would love to chit chat with you guys. So yeah, go play some new. New is, I think this deck is really really neat, and I keep on bringing up Warrior because I love Warrior, but like this deck feels like I said mean Warrior, and
Go play some new and lose some friends.
yeah, lose some friends. Yeah, they'll be like, oh, groan. Oh god. Okay, I lose my card from hand. All right, fine. +5, +8. All right, fine. I'll lose a blue. Oh, fine. I'll lose my arsenal. Fine. All right, my arsenal. I can't play D-Reacts. Great. Oh, okay. Your misplayed hit. The levels. Oh, okay. Blah 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 blah. All right. Enough complaining. She's fun. but fun doesn't have to. Fun is a zero-sum game, right? So you get more fun than your opponent when you play new.
True.
Yeah,
True.
and I think this deck will just make you a better player as well because you're being proactive, but you also have to be surgical with how you
Yeah, you have to
pick your
understand
opponent
every
apart.
matchup.
Yes, this is a deck that rewards those players that understand matchups and can adapt to game plans. So
Yeah, it punishes me, so I lose to Usuri because
yeah.
I don't have no because I have no practice into Usuri. So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Matchup knowledge is important. That's why I like being a specialist. It's like, oh, Arachne? Yeah, I've played that like 20 times. And then they're like, you've played against Arachne 20 times? It's like, yeah, in my lifetime. so so yeah. That's kind of the beautiful thing. All right. We're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of A to Z. This is Josh Lau with the Card Guys and King Shing Tsang with Team Blue Pitch. We're out. See ya.